It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
Morningstar does this. They come out, and I got nervous because we planned to do this show. We created the editorial calendar, and I was like, I know that about the 20th of October every year, that's when Morningstar comes out with their annual ratings.
Right.
So I was like, that's when we need to do this show because it'll be fresh off the presses. I got nervous because this thing didn't come out until I think it's either 25th or 26th. Yeah. So they scared me because we had it on the calendar.
It is literally hot off the presses.
It is hot off the presses, but it's kind of, this is a great resource because what I like about the way Morningstar does this is that they actually evaluate and they have a system that they use. They're very consistent with the way they do their system. And I'm quickly flipping
look
through.
at all those papers.
It is ridiculous how much paperwork that I have here.
Holy cow.
Go to youtube.com/moneyguyShow and you can see how much stuff I have before me.
You got a whole book over here.
We're trying to load up the toolbox, Bo.
Okay.
Loading up the toolbox requires a lot of research. So what I like is they have it's 5. They have the 5 Ps that they use as the criteria to rate, and the criteria they're using to judge and rate these different plans. So the first one is process. And what I'm planning on doing is I'm going to give you the definition that Morningstar provides, and then I've made some notes on things that we ought to consider. Okay. So the first one is process. Did the plan hire an experienced asset allocator to design a thoughtful, well-diversified glide path for the age-based portfolios? What suite of investment options is offered? So here's what I'd written on this one. This is kind of an update. First, also, I need to give a shout out to Leo Atchison. He's a CFA, Bo, so you're in good company. You guys could do the CFA secret handshake. But Leo is the one that all these articles I pulled from Morningstar, he's their guy. He's obviously their educational expert. So it's we'll probably send Leo a shout out for thanks for doing the great research. But here's what I had on the processes side. And Leo does a lot of discussion in his Morningstar research is that he counts on, when he was doing his analysis, that all these plans should be getting better and taking advantage of technology and the latest trends with investing. And one of those things is that we've talked about, and we do a lot of show discussion on target retirement funds, how target retirement funds, when you're first starting out with savings, they're great in the fact that they essentially replace the need for a financial advisor to create an asset allocation or you to become a do-it-yourselfer that knows enough about asset allocation to do a really good job. A lot of target retirement funds have made it very easy for people saving for retirement or for college, for that matter, where you just choose the year that you need the money, aka retire for target retirement funds, or age-based option for 529 is the year that your child is going to enter college, and then they'll do the asset allocation. Now, there's been some limitations when all these things started, whether you're talking about target retirement funds or 529 plans. They have what's called the glide path. Mm-hmm. It is the path of how often is the asset allocation getting adjusted. Because remember, these things are very aggressive when you're younger. Mm-hmm. But as you get older or your child gets closer to college, they need to be more conservative because now you're going to need those resources. You don't want to have a downturn like 2008 happen the year before your child goes to college. But the problem is that these things were pretty static. They had a step where every 3 to 5 years, the allocation was being updated and being made more conservative, but it was a pretty big shock to the system. I mean, you could see a 25% swing in some of the allocations. And as Leo pointed out, that needs to be modernized. And you've seen this with with target retirement funds. All of them have a pretty smooth glide path, meaning that those allocation adjustments are occurring much more frequently. Well, the problem is, that's not occurring as quickly with 529 plans. Here's what I mean by that, is that, as I told you, all target retirement plans have a much more smoothed out glide path. But when we were researching this, only 17 plans had the progressive glide paths. They had updated it. 15 of those have been improved just this year. Right. So that's still the not the vast majority, because as I have to go back to my resources. This is the part where preparation. Morningstar is covering 62 plans. Okay. Now realize there's 84 in nationally. Right. There's 84 529 plans. Morningstar is actually rating and doing an analysis on 62. That accounts for 95% of 529 assets. So this is the lion's share of 529s. But you heard 62, and now we only have 17 plans that have this more advanced, smooth glide path. There's still a lot of modernization in the process that needs to occur with 529. So I tell you all that just to let you know that Leo was paying attention to who's being modern, who's got the processes where they're taking advantage of the best way to manage these asset allocation structures and changes. The next was people. And what Morningstar says under the second P is under people, it says, what is Morningstar's assessment of the underlying money manager's talent, tenure, and resources? Meaning that do they have good people that are working through the process? The next one is parent. Is the program manager a good caretaker of college savers' capital? Is the state managing the plan professionally?
Sure.
So this goes into their analysis. The next is performance. Have the plan's options earn their keep with solid risk-adjusted returns over relevant time periods? How is the plan expected to perform going forward? So here's the cool thing. I made some notes on this one as well, is that 529s are just like everything else that we're all doing. I love how technology and the modernization of investing is making things cheaper and cheaper.
Sure.
We are the beneficiary. Us, the end consumer, is the beneficiary of this cheaper price. The asset weighted average is now 0.7% for all 529s.
Wow.
That's the asset. Now realize the average overall is 1.05, but that's not fair because a lot of people.
Better plans get more money.
Well, also asset classes, as we know from managing our own money, you can go buy an S&P 500 fund for practically free.
Sure.
But an international fund might be more expensive. But when you look at how the asset allocation is actually weighted as a total portfolio, the average comes out to be around 0.7 now. That's a pretty big improvement because just 2 years ago, at the end of 2014, the average asset weighted average in 529s was 0.79. So I mean that's a greater than 10% reduction in just 2 years. That's pretty awesome that price is coming down. I did want to draw attention on these are just averages. There are two different types of plans. You can do direct sold, meaning that you are buying your product. I mean, you're buying the 529 assets directly from the state website. You're going and downloading the applications. And then there's advisor sold 529 plans. So it's just like it sounds. That's where you go and get a financial advisor who helps you structure the plan. And not to confuse the matter, but there's actually a separation even between those two, because both direct sold can have a passive strategy, which is primarily index funds, and then they can have an active strategy where the direct sold are going out there and hiring managers who are hopefully making a decision. I want to give you some averages so you know how these decisions impact price and the cost structure. So on the direct sold with passive strategies, meaning they're primarily using index fund, the average is around 0.32% per year. That's getting pretty cheap. If you go to the advisor sold passive, meaning they're using index funds, the average is 0.74.
Okay.
And then on the price for advisor sold active, the average is 1.06. And then the direct sold active is 0.79. So you can see there's definitely a difference between if you're buying from an advisor versus buying it direct. And then there's a second separation from, are they using an active strategy or are they using more of an index strategy? So all that is going to play into what you're paying and understanding the pricing structure of what's going on there. I think it's also cool that Morningstar, when they're doing their ranking and analysis, they're also paying attention to the maintenance fees, because a lot of these plans, over half of the plans, have fees ranging from $10 to $30 a year just for having access to the 529. Right. Now that doesn't sound like much. You talk about 10 to 30, but if you think about the fact that you're starting a 529 maybe with only $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, you can $10 to $30 an annual fee can be a decent percentage. Sure. So you need to pay attention to the price side of things. So it's just interesting that they got into all that. I want to kind of go deeper into, what does this mean? What are the trends? So here's what Morningstar came up with. Of the 62 plans that they analyzed, out of 84, which like I said is 95% of the 529 plans out there in the assets, 34 plans received best in class. Now, what Morningstar considers best in class means they got a gold ranking, a silver ranking, and a bronze. As you can imagine, the lion's share of that best in class is probably in the bronze, much smaller, very few funds in the gold and silver. I'll go through which states and which plans are in those gold and silvers. 26 earned a neutral rating. And then 2 received an actual negative rating.
Not
good. So what I'm planning on doing is I'm going to give you in a minute, I'm going to give you the gold, the silver, and then the negative, because there's just a lot of, you need to go out and check out our website. We'll give you links if you want to go check out who the bronze as well as the neutral rated ones are. I did think it was interesting. This is a positive year in the fact that there were 6 plans that were upgraded. Only 3 were downgraded.
So it sounds like by and large they're getting better.
Yeah, so they are getting better. And then there's 3, versus last year it was 6 and 6. 6 up, 6 down.
Right.
Morningstar's paying attention to the modernization factor. And then fees continue to decrease. As I've already mentioned, in just 2 years, we went from 0.79 as the weighted average down to 0.7.
Sure.
That's a positive trend. It's nice to see those changes. And then asset allocation and glide paths have also increased. Now, this is the part on those downgrades. When I told you they've had 3 that were downgraded, it doesn't necessarily mean that the plans have done something incredibly bad.
Right.
It just means that they might not be changing at the rate that the market's changing, meaning that they're not modernizing the way they're doing asset allocation. They're not modernizing the way they do the glide paths. So that stuff is definitely coming into play. So let's kind of review the gold, the silver, and the negative. The gold plans, and you guys are going to recognize some of these plans because, especially if you're a Money Guy family member who's a client, because we use some of these, but it's the gold rated plans are the Bright Start College Savings Plan. That's a direct purchase. And that's in the state of Illinois. That's actually an upgrade. Last year, this plan was a bronze plan, so they made it to gold.
Wow,
so congratulations to Illinois for getting that update on their direct purchase plan. The next one is Invest 529, which is the state of Virginia. It's also a direct sell plan. It was a gold last year, so no change there. The next one on the gold side is the Vanguard 529 College Savings Plan in the state of Nevada. That's a direct purchase. It was a gold last year, so it's consistent. And then this one's pretty popular, the Utah Educational Savings Plan. It's out of Utah. It's a direct sell, and it's gold. What's interesting is that Nevada somehow got to use Vanguard in their title. The Utah plan's a Vanguard plan as well. So it's kind of interesting. Actually, I think most of those plans do have Vanguard assets in them, so it's quite interesting. If we transition down to the silver-rated plans, we got the Bright Direction Savings Plan, also an Illinois plan. This is an advisor-sold plan. It's last year it was a silver. The College Advantage 529 Savings Plan from Ohio, it's a direct sell plan. It was silver last year. College America Virginia plan, another advisor-sold plan. It's silver. College Bound Direct is Rhode Island. It's a direct. It was silver last year and it's silver this year. College Counts 529. Alabama. This one's an upgrade. It went from bronze last year to silver this year. So congratulations to Alabama for having an increase to their plan. The Maryland College Investment Plan. It's a direct purchase. It was a silver last year. Michigan Education Savings Plan. The MOST, M-O-S-T, Missouri 529 plan. The Scholar Share College Savings Plan, which is a California-based plan, and then T. Rowe Price College Savings Plan. That's Alaska. That one has also stayed silver. Are you impressed I didn't screw up Alaska?
No, you nailed it.
Because it's AK. That's always one of those tricky.
Arkansas, right?
Yeah, that's one of those tricky ones. But I showed that UGA education is paying off in spades. And then let's talk about the 2 negative ones, and then we'll kind of transition. Is the Franklin Templeton 529 College Savings Plan. Last year, this one was a neutral.
Okay.
Now it's listed on the negative list. And then the Ivy Funds.
What state was that?
That's in New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Good catch that I didn't share that. Ivy Funds Invested Ed 529 plan. This is an Arizona plan. It was negative last year. So these guys, they kind of got their blinders on. They know that Morningstar is not their best friend. They don't seem to care because it was negative last year and it's negative this year.
So if my course of action is, if I'm not one of those 4 gold plans, I need to rush out as soon as I finish listening to this podcast and go transfer all my money into one of the gold plans?
Great. I'm glad you asked that question because here's the thing, and they even say this in the Morningstar rating article, is that, remember, Gold, silver, and bronze are all considered best in class. But the ones that are even neutral rated, they still might be the best plan for you if you go and figure out that your state has an incredible savings benefit, a tax deduction, some tax incentives. It's just like Georgia has, they're on the neutral list. They used to be a bronze. I don't know what's happened over the last few years. It's moved them from, bronze to neutral. But if you live in the state of Georgia, because you can save $5,000 a year and get a tax deduction, which is essentially a free 6% match, you kind of need to go look at it. I mean, because that tax benefit nudges it forward. Now, if you live in a state, we live in a state that doesn't have a state income tax. It might make sense to go look at one of those gold
Utah
funds,
or Nevada,
but you need to really pay attention. I can't emphasize enough. Understand the tax benefits that are going on in your state so that you can make sure you're maximizing those, because those can turn a neutral plan into a personally gold plan for you. So make sure you understand that. And then a lot of you are going, wait a minute, what is my state? I want to know, you covered a lot there, but I didn't hear my state covered in that list. You need to go, really reference the rest of the research and ratings. They're going to be at Morningstar's 529 Plan Center. We'll put a link at moneyguy.com. So if you just go to moneyguy.com, we'll give you a link to that, the 529 Plan Center that Morningstar has. So go check that out. And Bo, I can't emphasize enough, you understand those tax benefits because that really is going to play into it. And I just want to kind of, because we're running out of time here, I want to close out the show, is that I think everybody needs perspective, because we spent a lot of time talking about the importance of funding education. And I truly do believe education is one of those things. I love going and talking to junior high students, high school students, and I tell them that education is the tail that you drag with you your whole life, meaning the decisions you make while you're young will impact you when you're 30, you're 40, you're 50. And we're proof of that. I mean, coming from humble beginnings, but I feel like we kept striving to get a better and better education and improve ourselves, and now it's paying off economically. But I tell this to the parents, that there's a cautionary tale here in the fact that your children can go get scholarships. They can go apply for grants. They can go do student loans. As we heard by the average, that a lot of kids come out of school with student loans. You know where you can't go get a scholarship, grant, or a loan? Your retirement. The only opportunity you have, if you haven't done everything you're supposed to for retirement, is to move into your kid's basement. And that doesn't mean that, because I know a lot of people that have their parents and get that extended family benefit, but you want it to be a choice that y'all have all decided, not because mom, dad, and you show up because you're broke. I mean, and that's kind of that is one of the worst things you can do. So that's why I tell you, if you're prioritizing, where does college funding come in your building your financial plan for your family, the enterprise? Make sure that you're prioritizing retirement savings for yourself. Building financial independence needs to be higher up on your priority list before you start saving for your kids' education. Now, like I said, I know we all have this worry to make sure we are checking the box, that we're investing in our children and giving them the best chance at life they possibly can have. But a big part of that is also making sure that you're prioritizing you need to be financially independent as well.